Hello from Mexico, my dearest friends. We are talking today about the truth of enlightenment and how can we cope with the feeling of jumping between kind of two different lives. The life of the so-called material reality, the world of judgment and duality, and the world of freedom in the one spirit. That is most interesting because this trip here to Mexico, has taught me a lot of things, and it has given me several locations where I could test out the ability to let go of judgments and anger and to give it to life, to experience a true transformation from a life of suffering into a life of peace. Welcome to Soul Surfing. Let's ride the waves from fear to love.
Something in the air, hypnotizing.
And here we go. What happened here in Mexico? So first thing was, we experienced a quite strong earthquake. I mean, I had one or two small earthquakes, one time in Greece and one time in New Zealand, 3 or 2.8 or 4, I don't know, but they were not strong. They were just, you were just realizing the earth was kind of moving. But this earthquake was quite strong. We were just on our way to go through security check at the Mexico City Benito Juarez airport to fly over to Oaxaca. And I just had placed my bags on the security band, and there came an alarm sound in the airport. And then my phone gave kind of a warning, but I was thinking, ooh, spam, and I pushed this warning away, but it was a seismic alarm, which, since there have been some catastrophes in the past history of Mexico City and the area of Guerrero, which is very earthquake prone, they have installed a pre-warning system. Well, it's some seconds. I think after this warning, it took about 3 seconds before you felt the earth shaking. So that was, wow, that's not very early warning, but that's the best they can do, I think, to warn people of a danger of an earthquake. And they only do this warning when the seismic shakes will exceed power 5. Well, I later heard this power was 6.5. This is why we felt it really heavy. I mean, it was like the ground is moving back and forth very rapidly. The lights were flickering in the airport. And what was my experience of that moment? Before any fear could come up, I felt tears running down my cheeks because I understood deeply that we as human beings have no power compared to the true power of life. The moment the tears came, I didn't realize that. Later when I reflected, why did I cry before I started walking out? Because everyone started walking out the building, of course. And the security staff advised us to leave the terminal because, of course, there can be a heavier shake following or whatever. I have no experience with earthquakes. But this one was shit scaring for me because I really nearly lost my balance when it was moving. And I mean, 6.5, to give you an idea, if you don't know it, I mean, I learned that it doesn't generate really strong damage, but it is shortly before causing lots of damage. So this power, so like if it would have been 7 or over 7, damages could have happened. Anyway, so I was first touched by the power before this life-saving fear came up. Oh, I have to leave. I mean, the roof could come down and so on, you know. So this was a very interesting experience. And the next thing was I was so touched that I started to message to friends and family back in Europe to say, hey, just had an earthquake, but we are okay in case you hear from it. And then as this earthquake was not catastrophic, it was just mentioned as a side news, and it was overshadowed by the Grand Montana fire in this bar that killed so many people. Well, and I thought, why did you immediately talk to everyone and communicate to everyone? Did you again want to be special? Hey guys, I experienced something really special. Look at me. Or what was it? And I said, I don't want to be a slave of specialness anymore. So that's what I learned from that earthquake. We are powerless as human beings, but life is most powerful. And we are not special. Specialness is an attack of the ego to our peace. That's how far I understood it. So, next experience was we traveled to Oaxaca, as I told you. Beautiful city full of art, beautiful restaurants, beautiful culture, and we did a trip up to Monte Alban, which is a Zapotec cultural setting that was built back in this epoch of the Zapotecs. And the interesting thing is they all started going into the history, why this pyramid and this building was built in this geography in that way and blah, blah, blah. And I had a feeling I don't want to get informed about that. I don't want historical information. I want to feel the place. So what I did, I walked away from the group, and I know why, because I could feel that this location has a very, very powerful energy that I could physically feel. And I don't know how many people do feel it, because many people who visit these kind of ancient sites get very busy in their minds about what do I know about the history, what can I learn about that history, and so on. But I was not interested in that. I wanted to feel the place, and I understood these Zapotecs exactly knew how to connect this site, this little town, this ritual mountain, with the universe. So they could download and mirror the universe on this site. And I was curious then if I was kind of right. And I gave AI the question about this place, and the result was exactly that. They knew, the old Zapotecs, how to exactly click a location into the grid of the universe, energetic grid of the universe, and by this download, the universe will mirror onto the planet. Wow, that was really cool. And I invite you really, whenever you are at ancient sites, be it in Greek or Rome or in Asia or South America, to feel these places. They knew the architects were spiritual masters. They were not just knowing how to build a building, you know. And today, this old knowledge is, you know, when you come to the cities and towns, it's barely used. They just built. Physically right, but energetically often not so right. Okay, so that was very interesting. The next teaching I had was when we came to Huatulca, to a beach resort, an all-inclusive resort where, with our part of the family and with a kid that was there, we wanted to be all-inclusive, so it's very easy to do everything. But a lot of things didn't feel right, you know, like there were no sunbeds and beach beds available because the resort was practically 100% booked and they didn't have enough of them, and people reserved the beach beds early in the morning so nobody could pick them away from them. And then the restaurants were all overbooked, and sometimes in the first day we had to wait half an hour to get a dinner table. And then my mind went up, whoa, I have to talk. I have to tell them this is not going to work. I want my money back, and blah, 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 blah. And then I reminded myself that there is a possibility to communicate this with compassion and love. And that I don't want to be yelled at if I do something wrong here at Soul Surfing or with the technical things by my production team. They are all sweet with me. Hey, Frank, maybe next time you could do a micro check and so on, because the quality of this recording was not good and we had to work hard on the audio quality. So I reminded myself of all that and I decided, yeah, I will communicate, but not in reproach and complaint. So suddenly the director of the hotel showed up and said he would love to talk to me because I had asked one of the staff if I could talk to a manager. Well, the director came. And he was, of course, an experienced tourism guy. I could feel that. And I softly listed what wasn't going so well, like the restaurants were overbooked, we couldn't get tables, the food was quality, which was true, was not very good. Yeah, and this communication was very inviting and very eye to eye. It was like we had fun talking about this, It was not like there is a complainer and the guilty director has to receive the complaints and make the guest happy. It was more two friends talking about, wow, this thing could thrive here if this and that would be changed, and it's easy to change. So that's how it all went. And the result was, of course, we are treated super specially well now, but we are treated with true warmth. That's what we feel by the staff. And if you compare it to someone who shouts at the director and says, I want my money back, and this is a bullshit hotel, then the staff also would turn to more friendliness, but they wouldn't do it from their heart. And I feel now we are treated warmly from their heart. Okay, and this is maybe a good example for a situation in which you might find yourself where all these things come up, be it in your hotel where you are, or at a workplace, or in a restaurant, or with an airline, or with a train, And this is because I choose not to live the typical critical ego mind, but to live what I perceived and what we perceived from the heart. Yeah. So what I see here, it's always an invitation to question our conditioned mind, which has been programmed since thousands of years, and it's trapped in this programming, and we think we are right and others are wrong. But these are all preconcepts of old conditionings, and we think it's real and important. So what we can do today is we can run a step-by-step process to reverse our thoughts that trigger suffering, and we softly learn to watch our mind and start softly through our heart, ask him to discipline itself. Well, the truth about enlightenment that at least I can tell you, if I'm even entitled to speak about what is the truth of enlightenment, because I don't know how far I am on that road, but it's, by my experience, not one bliss moment and then everything's good. We heard about some people who had it, like Eckhart Tolle maybe, or Byron Katie. I think they had moments of freedom and enlightenment and they kind of stayed in it. I mean, at least I hope it for them. But to me, by the experience that I could make and see in many, many people that I have seen on the pathway of freedom, if you start remembering your true nature, it can be a painful process because you have to take a look at the darkness you produced to yourself and you just took it from conditioning. And the old thought system wants to stay in that pain process and getting free of pain by painkillers, be it the drugs, the entertainment, the sexuality, the eating. the alcohol, all that stuff, we compensate that deeply we are not happy. And we all know we are really entitled to complete happiness. Yes, you are entitled to complete happiness if you grant it to yourself. So, I believe enlightenment is not one explosion of light and you're forever free, and there is not an angel's choir coming, freedom is love, freedom is love. No, that's imagination of the esoteric whatever. But I feel it's a process, and it's a process we can happily follow because it guides us into the freedom we all deserve. Yeah, so this actually is the main thing I wanted to talk about today. That life, practical life, shows us where we are, and it gives us again and again and again invitations to switch from a war mind to a peaceful mind. And as a peaceful mind is our nature, we are learning softly to see what's going on. And there is, what I have found out, there are three very, very, very simple steps to go that way, to follow that path. The first one, we acknowledge that we are right now not in peace. This acknowledgement includes that we realize the pain that not being in peace comes along with. So we invite any feeling that comes up with that recognition just to be there. We allow it to run through our systems. And we realize, secondly, that as we are not in peace, that we might be mistaking in our thinking right now, and we want to correct this mistake. And thirdly, how do we do it? We invite life to do that for us. We give it away. Hey, life, could you please take a look at this mess that I have in my thoughts that generate me pain and resistance? I give that to you. Could you please release my suffering and help me to transform my mind into peace? And you will see the results, guys, because if you honestly ask, life isn't doing anything but waiting to serve you in that pathway to peace and freedom. And never forget, this world is created by our unquestioned thinking, individually and collectively. And the world outside is just the result of our unquestioned or questioned thoughts, and the difference is huge. So be a part of the transformation of the world by transforming your painful thoughts. All right, guys? Okay, it was a pleasure to greet you here from Mexico, and I'm so grateful for what I have learned on this trip, and maybe I keep you updated on what's still happening here. Okay? So, from my heart, from the Soul Surfing Surfboard, bye-bye, and talk to you soon.